Oh yeah. That's right. Blue and red. Okay, so before I continue that dance, let it on. Yeah. Okay, so I just am now getting back from a little after party and mental party inside my mind. That was a Man of Steel get together and a little drinky poo scene after the fact with a couple wonderful Homo sapiens. Good time, absolutely good time. Okay, so this is my review of Man of Steel. That's why, yeah, I got the Kryptonian colors on here. So this is going to be a review of Man of Steel as centered on philosophy, and this is going to be very fun, I hope, because I've now finally had some time to really process all of the little metaphors we have going on here, and enormous metaphors. So, in Man of Steel, Kal-El, Superman, is a metaphor of philosophy and all of its existential implications, more or less. I mean, there are a little bit of interesting exclusions to these principles, but by and large, oh yeah, we've got a very interesting story to go through here. First thing is, oh my god, okay, I'm just going to do just all of the metaphors, because the metaphors were perfect and ever pervading. Now, if you were one of the people who went to the theater with me that night, a lot of this is going to just be some of the stuff you've already heard and stuff I've talked about. If you want to listen again, that's perfectly fine. I will be hopefully mentioning some stuff I didn't mention. I'm going to be going kind of fast through it. The first metaphor that I loved was, oh my god, okay, so Superman is the metaphor for philosophy, and when Clark saves all the children from the drowning government school bus, that was just fantastic. It's like, oh, the children can think for themselves now, yay! No indoctrination at the barrel of a gun. That's fantastic. So I thought that was, and I'm also the main direction I want to take that in terms of of Superman as being a metaphor for philosophy is mostly in the political realm. I'll get into some other stuff, of course, but to a large degree, I view Kal-El as a metaphor for anarchy and Zod as a metaphor for statism. And so there's massive battle, and it's like a lot of collateral damage between these ideas, which is the first metaphor beyond that school bus one I want to get to, which is that fundamentally we have the battle of ideas. The chemical processes that sustain life forms in the collection of atoms that they are is constantly being destroyed, and therefore we have the destruction of living matter in the universal lot. But really, I mean, ever since the first war, and the first beginnings of tribalism 80,000 years ago, and all of it, whether it's, hierarchy fundamentally, whether it's the tribe or the state or the church or whatever it is, the family, once we get rid of the hierarchy and family, then all the other hierarchies go away. But fundamentally, so we have destruction and hierarchy in the form of Zod, government, statism, and we have liberty, we have light, we have reason, we have the integrity, the consistency of actions, the focus of what philosophy gives us to see the real world. And so that's the overarching metaphor, I believe, in all of this movie. And from there, we, of course, I'm sorry, by the way, I don't think I've mentioned any spoilers yet, but I might mention it's kind of, I'm sorry that I'm using this sort of indirect term, might use spoilers. If I mention a spoiler, I'm so sorry. So go see it and then watch this review. So that's a preemptive declaration of the fact that I've had a couple drinks, so I might put some spoilers out there, and if I do, I'm sorry. So if you're worried about spoilers, go do something else, and then see the movie, then watch this review. So a lot of extensions of this, like how children, I was just talking about it, right? Like the hierarchy in family, the caste of the family, of the children on Krypton, who for generations have been bred not through natural birth, which is to say being born free and then having your liberty taken by those who like yeah, ridiculous stuff. But anyway, so the idea that you're not born free, but that you're born a member, you're born a slave, right? So Kal-El is the way, in a way, the first light to be seen on Krypton in a long time. And so that, just the whole metaphor of hierarchy within the family, and then the hierarchy of Zod, who is like, I am the epitome of this hierarchy. And because he's like, without Krypton, bah. And it's horrible, like, in the real world, of course. And the metaphor was so powerful, I felt, in that, which was wonderful to see. And the metaphor, or not necessarily the metaphor, but the theme, because I'm going to talk about themes and metaphors here, and the theme about always testing your limits, always seeing how far you can carry your principles, how far, and of course, because Superman, Kal-El is an embodiment of principles, right? And they talked about the idea of embodying these things. You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. The whole Gandhi thing. Be the change you want to see in the world. Own every action. You are a being of free will, and it is the decisions that you bring about into the world as the internal catalyst of the internal self manifesting in the external world of spoken words to others, and in the world of actions, the consequences you cause in the world, the way you actually interact with the material, the atoms, the protons, the electrons around you. So fantastic in that sort of overarching theme. The other thing that was fantastic with this movie was when, what was the female Kryptonian's name who really kicked the crap out of Kal-El there, smashing him? I can't, Gerald? I can't remember. But when she starts to talk about the success in terms of evolution that violence provides you, right? So that was, I was just like, yes. Did you know that a third of Asia is descended from Genghis Khan? I mean, from being an immoral animal, being an immoral mammal, being an immoral primate is incredibly good for you. You get tons of shit for free. And, a lot of people like not being good. I mean, shit, presidents run for re-election. You could not cattle prod me into running. I mean, I would never join a mafia or a government or any of these hierarchies. They're all just hierarchies. I would never join anything like this. It would be some ancient Egyptian, Stefan Molyneux has used this one before, it would be some ancient Egyptian curse upon me. I'd wake up in the middle of an Oval Office. I'd be clawing to get out of that like a mongoose at the business end of a Cobra tunnel, but they want it again. It's evolutionarily successful for you to be immoral. So philosophy is trying to get us out of this evolutionary system of claw and nail, of tooth and wing. Oh my gosh. It's not as if you go out into the African savannah and watch a cheetah take down a gazelle, and then a lion watches the gazelle do that and is like, no, I am way bigger than that cheetah, but I am just going to let that cheetah have what it brought down. That's that cheetah's, and I'm not going to take it from him. Of course, this never happens. So we come out of this evolutionary system of 4 billion years of biological evolution where we have not evolved to be virtuous and to have honesty. We've evolved to survive. That's what the basic idea of Darwinian slash Wallacean evolution is. Alfred Russel Wallace, the guys who co-discovered evolution. And it's not. We don't come out of this system. The fact that we're even capable of virtue is quite astounding. And so when she was talking about that was just, oh, man, was that wonderful. And a couple other things I want to talk about is how DC is a very empirical rather than fantastic superhero brand, right? I grew up on Marvel, and I always kind of viewed it as more of a fantasy, less of reality, right? So all of Superman's powers are are technological rather than some sort of mystic force. I view, like, a lot of people don't ever think about it, but I really view, excuse me, I really view all of Kal-El's abilities as being fundamentally technological, and that the embodiment of principles like don't steal, and that means you can't tax, don't, because it's the same thing, it's just euphemism, don't murder, that means you can't have war, don't have mafias, that means you can't have governments. Because we don't principalize our minds. We don't focus. And that was another, like I said before, that was a huge metaphor in this movie, was the idea of focus, of focusing your mind, of being able to truly see what was happening, which is why when Zod can see everything that's happening, he's like, I don't want to know that I'm a dictator. I don't want to know that I do not own these people. And you're seeing the bones of the destruction, all of the murders, when Kal-El sinks into that pit of skulls. Oh man, almost brought a tear to my eye to think about the bodies at the feet of this monstrosity called statism. The 262 millions who have been killed not in war by their own governments over the past 100 years. The skulls are piled high, so high, that visual image is totally accurate in comparison to what all of the individuals inside statism have done throughout even just the past 100 years. And there's been more theft and more war in the past 100 years than there has been in the previous 80,000 years combined. The bodies are piled high. The skulls you could sink into in a vat of evil, euphemistic, swimming pool nonsense hysteria. So that, the stuff, the world, man, to those of you who know philosophy and are maybe afraid to speak against violence, do not. The fate of your planet rests in your hands. Mind-blowing movie, guys. My favorite movie since my favorite action film. Well, I would almost. It's way up there. By far, it's my favorite action philosophy movie since the original Matrix, 14 years ago. If you really see the metaphors, this is a powerful movie. Go see Man of Steel, guys. Again, as an anarchist, a capitalist, an atheist, and I'm going to throw an abolitionist in there just because, people forget they're abolitionists. This is how obvious all of these things will be in the future to everyone, right? Because, as always, and before I leave, it's coming up here, it's kind of a long video for me, but as I've said, and as I've really tried to articulate as best as I can, the key to this society, the key to a society which can have human beings that move without the apparent aid of technology, can soar for however it is, stop matter from moving through the atoms that are their bodies, and being able to do all of this amazing stuff, never die, and fly, move, have free will and freedom of movement as a being that you could never possibly imagine technology delivering, because the years that this society would represent are fundamentally staggering. Billions of years, trillions of years in the future. Is that this starts with the premise of, what if a child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended? What if a child aspired to something greater? To cast aside the nonsense, the hysteria that is the past 80,000 years of relative ethical bullshit, the Medusa Gorgon mind-bending Mobius strip of relative ethics that has dominated our species until this moment, where we can finally speak freely to each other. What if a child aspired to something greater? That movement is starting, and that is the movement, the fundamental basis of the role of philosophy and peace and cooperation in the family. That is the paradigm that is going to carry us to the stars and who knows where else. Have a wonderful night, guys. Go see Man of Steel and have your minds and socks blown off you. See you guys.